right. First, thank you for coming today to the She's Daring Mighty Things Summit. I'm just going to ask you, if you're up here at the front or whatever, look around and see how many people are in this room. And I don't know about you, but when I show up to meetings at the Huntsman School, I'm sometimes the only one with a lot of estrogen. And there's a lot of us here today, and a lot of amazing men as well. So thank you guys for showing up. This is really exciting. I'm just going to kind of give you a very quick overview of what we're doing. Let's see. Can we grab, do we have that quote that's supposed to be up there? Anybody? All right, we'll get it up there in a second. One of our kind of themes for the day is the Maya Angelou quote. Anybody familiar with it? Surviving is important. Thriving is elegant. And that's also kind of one of our themes today. In the email that I sent out inviting students to this, I shared how, I think it was about 12 years ago actually, someone in a professional setting underestimated me. And every now and then you can hear, I'm from Texas, and there we are raised to be strong women, and so they underestimated me, and it kind of ticked me off. And so I was like, really? Okay. Well, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head I thought, okay, fine, watch me. And so that's kind of when my motto became, underestimate me, I dare you. And being underestimated, in some ways, I will admit, has made me more successful because it made me want to prove the other party wrong. So today's event is designed to help you think more broadly, to inspire you. You're going to get to hear from three mighty and brave women who will share a little bit of their story with you. The first one is Danielle Nielsen. She is a Huntsman School Advisory Board member. The second one is Andrea Gooch. She's a portfolio manager at Wells Fargo. And then our keynote is Amy Rees Anderson, who is founder and managing partner of Rees Capital. And then our WEBA Women in Business Association co-presidents, Mikkel Johnson and Julie Gould, will facilitate a panel discussion, and then we'll have some breakout sessions at the end of our meeting. So thank you for being here today, and without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle.
Thanks for the introduction, Meredith. So it's an honor to be here today representing the Huntsman School of Business National Advisory Board. I am very passionate about participating in events like this, especially when we're talking about women daring mighty things. So I was asked just to tell a little bit about my story and what I've done over the last, it's about 20 years since I left Utah State, and how I grew and developed my career, my personal life over the last 20 years. So I graduated from Utah State in 1999. I received a business marketing degree. So I, like all of you, went through the business program here at Utah State. And I thoroughly enjoyed my my years here in Logan. I loved the business program, and then I also was very involved with the Chi Omega sorority, where I think that's where I kind of got a feel for leadership, and that's where I kind of got the taste of what I really enjoyed doing. Through the Chi Omega sorority, I held a couple of leadership positions. I was a treasurer, and then I was also the president. So after I graduated from Utah State, moved back to Salt Lake, I had worked in the wireless industry. Back then, it was paging. I don't know if many of you know what a pager is, but I used to sell pagers in the mall when I was in high school. So I had formed great relationships with people in the paging industry. And after graduating here, moving back to Salt Lake, cell phones was this kind of new up-and-coming industry that I was familiar with, and thought, what an interesting opportunity to maybe dive into, seeing where that might take me. So my brother and I, in March of 2000, decided to start our own business, a company called Diamond Wireless. And let's see. So March of 2000, we start this company, Diamond Wireless, new industry. Cell phones are becoming something that people can afford, and there's a little bit of hype around it, so it's exciting. We started out telemarketing, but we quickly realized that telemarketing wasn't our strong suit. So we had to make a decision. Either we're going to not survive as a business, or we need to pivot and take another risk because telemarketing's not working. So we decided to open up a retail location in Fashion Place Mall. So we opened up our first retail location in September of 2000 and quickly found that it was a great opportunity and that it was working well. So over the course of a couple of years, we built the Utah market. We had 5 or 6 stores, and then we realized we wanted to see if we could take this and move outside of the state of Utah and succeed in other states. So my husband joined the business with us, and we moved to Colorado, and we had an incredible employee that worked with us that decided to go to Arizona. And we quickly found that this model that we had kind of built and perfected also worked in these other states. So here we are a couple of years into this business, and we're realizing this is really a great opportunity. Let's take some more risks and try and expand more and more. So over the course of 16 years, from 2000 to 2016, we built our business from one retail location in Salt Lake to over 350 retail locations across the country with 2,000 employees. And that took lots of risks, lots of failures, but also finding ways to pivot, change, and make things better and learn from the things that we didn't do well. So with an incredible leadership team and, again, incredible employees, we were able to build this business over 16 years. In September of 16, we decided that it was time for us to exit the business. In that time frame, we also became a national agent for Verizon. They had 6 national agents. We were one of 6, which was an incredible achievement for those of us that were in that industry. Well, so in September of 16, we decided to sell our business to another national agent, which made them the biggest national agent in the country. It was really bittersweet. We loved and we were very passionate about everything that we did with Diamond Wireless, but we also felt it was the right time for us to exit and move on. So a year after that, my husband and I took some time, really focused on our family. We traveled with the kids. We have 2 adorable children, an 11-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son. But then we tried to sit back and say, what is it that we're passionate about and what do we like? And we both really came down to the conclusion that we love growing businesses. So we started to explore ideas and options and opportunities to maybe get involved with some other businesses. My husband is now involved with a heli ski business in Argentina that's just getting up and started. And then I found a restaurant that I frequent often called the Protein Foundry. It's a health food bar that I loved. And becoming a customer, going in there every, a couple times a week, built a relationship with the owner of that company. And over the course of 6 to 8 months, we really we built this kind of foundation and friendship, and then realized it would be a great opportunity to partner and invest with Protein Foundry. So November 2017, we partnered up with Protein Foundry, and over the last year, we've opened up 2 more locations. So we now, that's what I like to do. Let's grow. So we have 3 locations now in the Salt Lake Valley, and really enjoying this new business and growing this opportunity. So as I kind of look back on my year since I left Utah State, I took a big risk in 2000 to start Diamond Wireless. And at 23, trust me, I had no idea how to run a business or how to lead people. But I took a risk in an industry that was in its infancy, and I put everything I had into it. And just because of those opportunities and the course of 16 years of that experience with Diamond Wireless, I really found my passion for leading, managing, growing, and operating businesses. It also taught me how to balance personal life and career. And believe me, it wasn't always perfect and it wasn't always in balance. That's just, I don't think, reality. And there were times where my personal life probably were not in balance, and career was, there was more involvement on the career side. But because of that time and dedication that I put into career, it then paved a path for me now where my personal life definitely outweighs my professional. So finding that balance can be tough sometimes, but I think that I've been very fortunate in finding a partner, my husband Kent, who has always supported my passions and what I've wanted to accomplish, and vice versa. I've done the same for him and supported what he's been looking for. And then our family and our children have always been a priority, so we've always made sure to communicate to make sure we have that balance. So just in closing, I just want to say that I think this journey that we're all on is pretty unknown. I never would have expected at 23 that Diamond Wireless would have grown into what it did. But taking those risks and jumping on opportunities that arose really built a foundation for us and for me as a person to build and have personal growth. So I would just challenge each of you to find a path that gives you the most personal growth. Make yourself a priority. That's okay. I think it's okay for us to do that. Find your passions. Take some risks. Surround yourselves with people that support what matters most to you. And then in return, find people that you can support in what matters most to them. And then be open to finding balance between personal life and career. Like I said, sometimes it can be imbalanced, but there's a lot of times that it's right where you want it to be, but a lot of that comes to you putting your time and energy and communicating and finding that balance. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited to spend the rest of the morning with you, and we'll talk to you guys here shortly. Thanks.
I'm going to stand up here. Can you guys hear me? I have this little cute mic on, but everybody can hear me and see me. I'm short, so I got to stand up here. So yeah, I'm Andrea Gooch. I attended Utah State here from 2008 to about 2014, so I've been graduated about 5 years. I'm just honored to be here today. I can't even say this is like, you know, when you're like, I made it. I got invited back to the Huntsman school. So no, actually I'm really honored. Funny story, back when I was an ambassador for the Huntsman school, I hosted Amy Rees Anderson, and I just remember thinking, oh, she's the coolest person in the world. So to be here next to her today is quite an honor. And actually, the day before I found out I'd be speaking next to her, I saw her name in a program for the Hill Center Theater, and I turned to my dad, I was like, oh, she's cool. And the next day I'm like, oh, I get to hang out with her. So no, it's really great to be here today, and I loved my time at Utah State. So I was kind of asked to talk on two things, just my path of getting here, and then also just balancing all now that I'm a mom and whatnot. So yeah, so started here at Utah State. I originally declared as a political science major, mostly because my mom said, you should do that. Who knows what they want to do in life? That's my first question. Who knows what their life goal is? Anybody? Does anybody know what they want to do in their life? See, same boat. Like I still had no clue. Honestly, it was like, didn't even know once I graduated college what I really wanted to do. But so how I did find out what my life goal would be. So that's what I want to kind of talk about today. So I applied pretty young. I'd heard about the like DC internships on the Hill, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to go have an adventure. I was like 19. Most of the people applying were quite a bit older. They were seniors, and I was only a sophomore at the time. And I went out and I applied, way underqualified, but luckily through some networking, I did get an internship out there, and that just led one step to the next. Has everybody heard of Imposter Syndrome? So women, right? Women specifically have this imposter syndrome. My sister is a doctor, and so we have a 1-year-old boy, right? And I'm always asking her, well, what's going on, what's going on? And she'll say, well, I think it's this, but I'm not really sure. Go ask the doctor for real, his pediatrician. And I do, and she's spot on every time. She's got the worst imposter syndrome. I have it, I know we all have it. So luckily, as a freshman or as a sophomore, I didn't realize that I was underqualified. And it luckily set me up because I was aggressive enough to go and apply. It set me up from one thing to the other. So I got this internship. Because I had this internship, I got accepted to the Huntsman Scholar Program really young. I did that. I did the South America Go Global, where I found out about the SEED program and fell in love with it. I served a mission and realized the whole time I was in this crazy little teeny country called Kiribati in the middle of the Pacific that they needed microfinance. And one thing led to another. I was a Huntsman ambassador. I did the Bueller Scholars twice. I know that's probably not around anymore, but it was a phenomenal experience. I did the Dubai Insight Dubai Women's Leadership Conference. Is that still around? That was awesome. And then I was able to do the SEED program. And I really found out through all of these steps what I loved, because I was just really applied for everything, was involved, and I was aggressive and got out there. And I'll be honest, I got denied for multiple things and was told no. So don't think you're gonna get no's along the way, but you'll also get yeses. So what I kind of wanted to talk about is I didn't have that imposter syndrome. I didn't realize, and luckily it just set me up for this pathway of success and being super involved and then finding what my end dream is. So as a senior, actually Dave Patel, this is a funny conversation, way before the cool Huntsman Hall, it was being built, Dave Patel and Blake Dursteller and I were talking down, and I had an offer from Goldman Sachs. And I was like, guys, I don't know if I want to go work for Goldman Sachs. I want to go do nonprofit work. And they're like, you're crazy. Go take the offer. And I just was like, I wasn't sure. Well, I don't regret that at all. I took their advice. I took the offer from Goldman and went and worked there for a couple years. And then that led me to Wells Fargo, where now I manage about $900 million in equity assets for high net worth individuals. And so just like one step just led to the next. But now that I'm sitting here about, October, I was thinking, well, this is great. I've got to a really good spot professionally, but this still isn't my life goal. But luckily, all these steps have set me up for what is my life goal. So my life goal, what I decided, one day I finally voiced it out loud, was to start a microfinance in this country of Kiribati. And luckily, it's just like took off. Honestly, in 1 week, it happened. We are a registered 501c nonprofit. We got the funding we need to run the first semester. We've had commitments from the business school. We're sending interns starting this summer. And so just because of great friendships and network, even though I hate that term, it's network can sound insincere, but just really, truly good relationships with professors and other people I had, it just all fell into place. So I'm really grateful for the advice, as well as I was just grateful that I didn't realize that I wasn't good enough in a sense. And I was aggressive and got out there, and one step led to the next. So that was kind of my path. And then what I want to talk about, balance, I don't have a lot to say on it, mostly because I think we're right, Danielle's right, nobody has it figured out. Nobody has balance. The first thing I'd say is cut corners where you can. I have an army of Roombas. I use a meal prep service, just like little things that are gonna save me half hour a day, do it, it's worth it. And then the other part is definitely having a partner that is a partner. My husband's name's Andrew, I'm Andrea, we call ourselves Team Andre, and we really do see ourselves as a team. And honestly, he's been up more nights with our teething 18-month-olds than I have this week. So really, it comes down to a good teammate who's gonna support you. Being a mom, goal, but it's the most rewarding thing, but it's also the most challenging. It's harder than working for sure. And I would just say finding that good teammate along the way is going to make all the difference, who will support you in whatever your dream might be. So yeah, that's just kind of what I want to say. Go get them, right? That's what Chip Gaines says, go get them.
Can you guys hear me okay? Oh, okay, I'm putting this here, so you guys' job is to make sure I actually look at it while I'm talking. And let me just get this up. Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? So I'm glad that she asked the question, what's your goal, right? Who knows what their goal is? They make sure I feel any better at your age. I had absolutely no idea what my goal was. I came out, I'm going to start talking, and I'll just catch the pictures up when they get it up, if that's okay. But if you need a USB, let me know. Okay. I came out to BYU when I was, sorry, I went to BYU, you guys, I know. Would have repented if I had seen Utah State first, I probably would have come here first. And I actually do have a grandpa that went here and was actually a professor here, which is really cool for me to be up here. So it has a special place in my heart in Logan. But I came to college when I was 17 years old, had zero idea what I was going to do. I grew up in a family of 10 kids, lived all over the country, except for Utah. Hadn't lived in Utah. Oregon, Washington, Michigan, Virginia, Tennessee, Texas, California. Anyone here live any of those places? See, look at the bond, just because we lived in the similar places, right? It's so cool. By the way, that little trick works in business very well when it comes to networking with people, is having some kind of a thing that can break down a barrier. So having just lived somewhere, it gives you something you can talk about. Having anything in common you can look for with people is a great little tool to use to break down some barriers. But I came out to Utah, and my goal was to have 10 kids just like my mom had and get married. That was it. That was the goal. I know it probably sounds lame, but you know what? That's actually a good goal in some ways. Let's be honest about that. So I came out and I did. I got married, and I was very young when I got married, had 2 little kids, and I got divorced and ended up as a single mom that had dropped out of college to put her husband through, and literally was like terrified. Okay, so we're going to talk about today daring mighty things and what that looks like. What are we thinking? Do we have it?
Do you have a USB?
Yeah. Here, I know I've got a USB. Let's try to put this in because I want to be able to show them some photos. Look, I got cute photos of my kids in here. You got to show those. You got to. Okay. I want to talk a little. No, the talk's on that USB. You can actually just open the PowerPoint that's on the USB that she just stuck in.
Okay.
And then if there's a way to do the clicker. I want to talk about what it means to dare mighty things, right? That's the theme of the conference today. And daring mighty things, actually, I started from a girl that dropped out of college and went on to become the girl that started and sold company for $377 million, okay? That actually was a pretty mighty thing, right? But that's not the only thing that a mighty thing looks like. I want to talk about the fact that a mighty thing can look really different, especially at different stages in your life. So I told you guys that I got married young, got divorced, had 2 little kids, all this. So, oh yay, you guys get to catch up on pictures. That's me. That's what I was gonna. That was my goal. This is me when everything fell apart. Do we feel like we're caught up now? This is me selling a company later for $377 million, right? Okay, that's just the intro. But I want to talk about one of my first experiences of daring a mighty thing, which is gonna probably sound a little silly, especially to some of the men in the room, but the women, I hope you can relate. Here I was, a young girl that had gone from living with her parents, right? I went from having a dad to having a husband immediately, and then to being divorced. And I still remember this moment because it was such a pivotal moment in my life, but it was right after I had gotten separated and I was in a house by myself with the kids. We just moved into a house together, and it came Sunday night, and I realized who's going to take out the trash, right? Like my whole life, my dad had took out the trash. Then I lived in the dorms in college, and then I had a husband that took out the trash. And it sounds like the stupidest thing, but I literally had a panic attack, like who's going to take out the trash? And that moment for me, being this young girl that was terrified about what was going to happen in her life, to take out the trash, that was a mighty thing for me, right? Because I was terrified. To me, that represented having to take care of myself, to be on my own, to be independent. And that was a really mighty thing. Just walking from that front door with those 2 trash bags out to the curb was mighty. And I was bawling all the way there. I'm not going to lie to you. I was crying my eyes out. But as soon as I took the trash out to the curb, something incredible happened. It was, I wish we had Chariots of Fire music right now. That would have been really good to put in my PowerPoint. But that's literally, I was like, I had this moment like, I did it. Like I just did something that was terrifying for me. I took out the trash, I did it alone, and I survived it. Now, it sucked. I hated doing it. Let's just be honest. I mean, taking out the trash is kind of a man job. It's this area of my life. I'm okay with man-woman jobs. But I was like, the fact that I did it by myself, to me, it was like that moment of, okay, I'm going to be okay, right? That was a mighty thing. So mighty things in your life could be super small, but really impactful. The other thing that was really mighty, I think, was trying to overcome the fear of what other people thought. You know, we all have this picture of the ideal, especially women. We're so bad at this. We always are comparing ourselves to everyone else, and we're never as good as, right? We're always a little bit less than. And it's really a hard thing to overcome this thing of what everybody else thinks. And learning to do that is one of the mightiest things you're going to do. Learning to focus on just what you think of yourself and forget everybody else. That's mighty. And a trick that I learned to do that is I learned that the picture I had of who I was in my head, I could actually be somebody else when I needed to go do something important. When I needed to take that trash to the curb, I didn't have to be Amy. I could go.
All the world is waiting for you.
We'll wait for the song and the tights and all that. Okay, fighting for her rights. It's okay. But the point, and that's what the OG Wonder Woman looked like. For you ladies that have seen the new movie, and she's cool too, but not as cool as Linda Carter was. I'm just saying. So Chris Pine, though, super way cuter than the first guy. So I had to throw it in. But for me, there's all these things that in my life that I had to do that were super, super scary. Starting your first business, super, super scary. All these things, right? Taking the trash out, super scary. But you have to be willing to get yourself in a mode where you can do it. So by replacing the picture that's in your head with this picture of someone you feel like this is the ideal, right? This is my ideal self. It's the fake it till you make it. You've heard it said before, right? It is okay to do that, to give yourself the courage to then, once you've done it once, the next time, guess what? Taking out the trash the second time was a lot easier. And the third time, a lot easier. Still hated it, but I knew I could do it. And I think that's what would happen in business, right? Like I would get into these situations and I'm like, I'm not good enough to be here. All those little voices in your head that you frankly need to tell to sit down and shut up, because there's a lot of them. But excuse them from your head. Tell yourself, look, I would close my eyes literally and be like, hey, I'm Wonder Woman now. I'm going to go do what I need to do, and it's all going to be fine. And then when I came back, then it was okay to go back to being insecure me. But that little trick will help you through so many things, and that's how you start to dare the mighty things. The other thing is, when we asked what was your goal and nobody wanted to raise their hand, either they didn't have one or they didn't want to raise their hand and tell it, because it's one of those things that, I can't remember which one of you two said the thing about, like she didn't know it was her goal, but then okay, so here's the thing. If I would have asked the question, or she would have asked the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? How many of you now have a goal you can think of? I'm not going to make you say what it is, but how many of you now have a goal? If I say, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Does that change the number of you that would kind of know what you would be doing? It does, right? Okay, a really mighty thing is to go after that. It's a mighty thing. So for me, I had these two little kids. That's my daughter Ashley and my son Dalton, right? This is how old they were when I did a really mighty thing, which was to quit my job as the sole support of those kids and start a company. So that's how old she was when I started my first business. Super terrifying, super scared. But the fact was, I didn't want to leave those little kids with babysitters all the time. I had wanted to be a full-time mom my whole life. That's all I ever wanted, right? To get married and have all those kids. So I was like, crap, if I go to a job every day, I got to leave them. So for me, it was like, okay, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do? Well, I would start a company so I could be in charge. And I could take my kids to work with me, and nobody was the boss of me to tell me I couldn't, right? So that was my mighty thing. So I did. I started a company. I was only 23 at the time. She was a few months old. Out of my 10 by 10 room in my house with $23,000 that I went and raised from an uncle and a dad. That's how I got my start. Super scary. It wasn't because I was like sure I was going to succeed. I was just like, I want to feed my kids. I want to be their mom. That's motivating me. What can I do? And those two kids grew up in an office. I had two little Fisher-Price desks. That's an actual picture. I know this is why we needed the projector to work. You have to see the pictures. But I had two little Fisher-Price desks, and I would take my kids to work with me every single day. They literally got raised by my employees in my office. And when they were naughty, they had a Winnie the Pooh tent, and they got to go take a time out in the Pooh tent. They hated that Pooh tent. It became the office joke. But what was funny is like you sit there and think to yourself, oh, was that being a bad mom? Well, does putting food on the table make you a good mom? Yeah, it does. And sometimes you're going to have to do that, right? And so it wasn't that I didn't care about motherhood or parenthood, but I did care about it. And that's why I had to do what I did. So I started that. I took them to work every day. And as hard as it was and some of the sacrifices that came, and there was some, you heard people, they both shared that balance is a really hard thing. It's impossible. But what was really funny is watching them grow up in that office, and especially this little one right here, not so little now, but this was her, and she would run around that building and command every employee in that place. Now you want to tell me that's a little girl that isn't learning some skills that are going to come handy later in life? Because it did, okay? Like she still commands the whole universe. And the confidence that they got growing up in that environment around those people, there was some real positives that came from that. I still remember the first time my little boy drew a picture and he came running in and he says, hey, Mom, I want to send this to Grandma. And I said, okay, well, mail it to her. And he goes, no, just fax it. It's faster. It's like a little you guys don't even know what a fax machine is probably now, but the pagers, faxes, we're so old. But it really, watching them kind of grow up and watching them mature in that environment, for me, It was a really mighty thing to try that. But if I wasn't afraid, what my goal was to be around my kids and be the boss, right? So it gave me that thing. And if you don't dare those things, you're never going to know. But the hardest thing I will tell you right now, by far, of all the mighty things I've done in my life, the hardest and most mightiest is balancing, whether it's as a single mother or whether it's as a married couple. It doesn't matter. It's hard no matter what. Balancing family and work and personal life and just trying to keep some time for yourself to be whole again, that is probably the hardest thing you're going to ever do. And it's why whenever you hear someone talk about it, they're like, yeah, I don't have it figured out. There's nobody that has it figured out, right? None of us do. We do the best we can do and hope that someone doesn't go to prison or doesn't hate us later or that we don't go crazy. So you just have to do the best you could do and let that be enough. Okay? But doing mighty things, it's not about being so scared you don't try. It's about trying and then doing the best you can. The next thing that I think was a really mighty thing for me was learning to be fallible, learning to be vulnerable. So as a CEO and growing this company from 70 employees to 2,000 employees worldwide, you know, everybody looks to you as the boss and they think, oh, she's got it all together. She knows everything. And you feel a lot of times as women, we feel the pressure to act like that, right? We act like we have it all together. That's why like we go to our like little events and act like, oh, I'm totally put together. My hair is perfect. My makeup's perfect. Everything's perfect, right? But it's really not perfect. We're just like feeling like we have to be that way. Well, I finally got to the point where I was like, I couldn't take it anymore because I'm not perfect and I don't know everything. And I was scared to death 90% of the time. Learning to actually say that out loud to people was one of the mightiest things that I learned how to do. And I learned that there's a really big power in doing that. Being willing to say, I don't know it all, I don't have all the answers. You do not have to pretend to be anything other than you are. You don't. It's okay. Look, I live in a world of men because I'm in technology companies, right? In the tech world, back when I started, there was like no other women in the room. I went to a conference down in Texas. It was in a meeting at EDS headquarters, and we were up in this top floor of this building, and it was like as male-dominated a company as it got, right? The women had to wear dresses back then if you were on their campus, their company campus. And so we go up to the top floor, and we're in this thing, and the only women in the room at this big conference table were the ones serving cookies. And then I'm sitting there with all these men in suits that are really powerful businessmen. And they were all trying to solve a problem, and I was like, oh, they're so much smarter than me. I'm like this young girl. I'm in technology. I feel stupid in this room already. You know, I'm a mom. I can't talk about the fact I'm a mom. They'll think I'm weak. All these like things that went through my head. And these men were trying to solve a problem, and I was like sitting there going, okay, I think I have an answer, but I'm too afraid to speak up because, gosh, they're smarter than me, and what if I look stupid? And finally, I just got really annoyed because it like went on forever, and I was like, okay, dude, seriously, I'm sorry. Can I just use the whiteboard for 1 second? And they're like, sure. And I grabbed a marker, and I went up there, and I drew it all out, and their mouths dropped. And they were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not that dumb. It was like this great moment of, oh my gosh, I'm not that dumb. Like I knew something all of these really important, high-powered, high-paid men did not know. And that was a huge, mighty lesson for me, which is you cannot assume that because you're younger or because you're not the same gender as the people in the room or whatever it is, or you don't have as much money or you haven't had as much success, do not assume that you are dumb. Do not assume that you don't have something valuable that you can add. Because you'd be shocked to find out the incredible viewpoint you can bring to something. You are who you are for a reason. You've had the experiences you've had for a reason. You come to the table with something different than anyone else can. So don't be afraid to speak up and use it. Don't sit there in that room and be that shy person that's not willing to talk up because you think, oh, I'm the dumb one in the room, or I'm the young one in the room, or I'm the inexperienced one. Okay? Maybe sometimes you're going to say something that does come off that way. Who cares? Because 99% of the time you're going to say something and people are going to be like, oh. And it's really cool to find out, you know what, just because someone's older than you doesn't make them smarter than you, right? There's really some cool experiences you'll have to figure out that all these people that everyone says, oh, this person's so important, half the time they don't know half of the stuff. And that's okay. So learning to be vulnerable and open about the fact you don't know it all, but you're smart and you'll figure it out, or I'll go look it up, right? Doing that and being open about that is powerful because what it does is it makes other people want to rally around you and help you. In my company, as I started to, instead of trying to act like I'm the important CEO and you should all bow down to me, as soon as I was like, you know what, dude, like, it is hard. This job is scary. There is days I have no idea if I'm making the right choice or not. The more I started to put that out there in that way, the more everybody was like, oh, let's help her. Let's help her succeed, right? And they rallied, and all of a sudden they were like supporting me because they wanted me to do well. It's really hard to be excited to help somebody that acts like they don't need your help. But it's really fun to help someone when you like know they appreciate the help and that they appreciate the value you're adding. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It's a really powerful thing. As this company grew, you'd think, oh, okay, I mean, now you had this successful company, we were making a ton of money, we were doing huge revenues, huge clients, everything was going good. You'd think, oh yeah, now she was the girl that had it all down. She didn't have to dare anything. That's just not true. Every day that I would drive into that parking lot of that building and see all those cars sitting out there, I would have this overwhelming moment of, I'm responsible to make sure all their car payments get made. I'm responsible for all the kids that they're driving to school before they come to work every day, right? I have to put bread on the table for them. And it was overwhelmingly scary because I am one person and there's no way I can do all that. So it's not like you get over needing to do mighty things. It's a mighty thing sometimes just to get out of bed in the morning if you're struggling with depression, right? It's a mighty thing to ask a girl out if you don't know she's going to like you. Or to ask, say, to go, whatever. There's a million things that are mighty things, that they all matter. So it doesn't, just because someone has had success or has had wins, it doesn't mean that they're not still scared and they don't still have to do mighty things every day. They do. I grew that company, I sold it, and you'd think, oh, she sold it, now she had all this money, and now she didn't have to do any mighty things anymore. But that's not true. I had to wake up and go, oh my gosh, I just sold my company. Who am I now? I've been this girl for I don't know how many years now. Started when I was 23, sold my company when I was 40. So that's a long time of being the CEO of a company. And all of a sudden I was like, who am I now? I got to figure this out. That was a really mighty thing to do. I'm going to tell you about a mighty thing I did last year because this is like a big win for me, and it's going to sound so stupid because think of all the challenges I went through. Single mom, company, all this stuff, tech world. I'd done all these mighty things. And then someone asked us to go on a bike ride, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get on a bike. Number one, I hate to exercise. It's against my religion. Okay, I made that part up. I kind of modified my current religion to add that because I really don't like to exercise. But I got asked to go on a bike ride, and my husband was like, we should go. But it was a bike ride that was like 20 miles a day for 6 days to go from Vermont up to Canada. And I was like, I haven't been on a bike since I was 10 or 12. The last bike I had a big banana seat with purple flowers on it, like, and a bell, which was kind of cool. So I was like, I can't do this. There's no way. I was terrified. This was just a few months back, you guys. I was terrified to go. And my kids made fun of me you want to talk about being worried what people think? They were like, dude, we want video evidence of her doing this. This is going to be hilarious. She's going to die. Don't let her clip her feet into the pedals because she'll for sure be dead before the end of the week. Like, they were so mean about making fun of me, right? Now, to my daughter's credit, she did get online and help find the cutest bike clothes for me. She's like, at least you can look good, Mom. So that, if anything goes wrong, you're going to look hot. So she helped me find all the cutest Lululemon whatevers. So this bike trip for me was terrifying, and I actually wasn't going to go. And interestingly enough, it was one of my board members from my company that I'd sold, who's a good friend of mine. Super successful. You guys have probably heard of Jim Sorensen, right? Sorensen Companies. He's one of my dear friends. He was on my board and one of my investors. And Jim said to me, this is a guy who'd worked with me all these years, and he saw the mighty things I could do in the business world, right? And I was like, I'm really scared. I haven't been on a bike since and he's like, this is all in your head. He's like, it is 100% mental. You absolutely can do this. It's all in your head. And I went home and I was like, he's right. It's all in my head. So guess what? I went to Vermont and I rode that stupid bike and I took pictures of my little thing every day to send to my kids to prove, look, I'm doing this and don't make fun of me. So I did it. But you guys, if you knew how terrified, that was as terrifying for me to go on that bike ride as it was for me to take out that trash, as it was for me to start a business. They were all mighty things and they were all hard. Just this last couple of years, I've been writing every day this blog, right? Since I had my company in 2010, I started doing a five days a week this blog and putting myself out there and being vulnerable and telling what I'm learning and just being honest about life. And I got approached by Forbes. I was writing for Forbes, and they approached me and said, hey, will you publish a book? And I was like, well, I've been writing for so long, this won't be hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, you guys, because it felt so scary to write this book and put yourself out there and be like, what if nobody likes it? What if everyone thinks it sucks? Because maybe it does. I don't know, right? But you know what? I did it anyway. I did it. And guess what? Right there on that counter, I just got my copy in the mail. So excited. But terrified, right? I wrote the book. You'd think that a girl that had done all these things would have the confidence that it's no problem. I'm already writing for Forbes. I'm already writing for Huffington Post. I was already writing a daily blog. Why was it so scary? I don't know. Why is it so scary for you guys to go talk to a stranger? Who knows, right? Sometimes it all is. And the whole point is it's okay that it's scary, but you got to push past it. If you're going to do mighty things, you got to get up and do something. I always tell my kids, God cannot guide a parked car. You got to be driving, and then he'll help you figure out where to go, right? And whether it's God or the universe, whatever you believe in, all of us have this higher power of some sort in our minds that we believe in, and it cannot lead you where you're supposed to get to. If you are not moving, you got to have some, is it inertia? Yeah, I dropped out of college. I can't remember the word. But you know what I'm saying. You got to be moving, and you go in a direction, and you know what? If you're going in a direction and it changes, that's okay. I can't tell you the number of times I pivoted. Listen to these ladies that talked before me, how many times they pivoted in their life before they figured it out, and we're still figuring it out, right? It's okay. My dad went to dental school and then got recruited by the FBI. Would have been the scariest dentist on the planet. If you've ever met my dad, he's like super serious, right? The FBI thing fitting for my dad. But he was going to be a dentist. Did he make the wrong choice to try to go to dental school? No, he didn't. He was moving, and then something in life pulled him in the right direction. But you don't get pulled in the right direction until you start to move. So you got to get up and do something. Do anything, just make a start. Best advice my grandfather ever gave me. The one that actually went here, that's the one that went to Utah State. Little moment. Okay. And he taught here. He's awesome. He was an engineer. The other thing is, she talked about networking. You got to network yourself. You can't be afraid to talk to people. Okay? You cannot be afraid to go shake their hand and say hello and tell them who you are. I know it's scary. I know it's terrifying. I know you think they're going to be like, why are you talking to me and who are you? No. No one's ever been offended by saying, hi, you look so, I love your braid. You're so cute. It's Lindy. Nice to meet you. Right? Was that offensive? No. Okay? Taylor. By the way, ladies, single man right here. He's like my second adopted child. If I come up and I didn't know you and I was like, how you doing, Taylor? That's your name? Really cool shirt, man. Are you offended? No. You guys, it's okay. Talk to people. Don't be afraid. Remember, people want to help people that admit they need the help. No one wants to help somebody that has it all down, right? You want to help someone who's like going to be excited and you're going to make a difference and an impact in their life. So talk to people. Put yourself out there. Put yourself in the running, okay? It's not about getting picked. It's about getting noticed. And every time that you put yourself in the running, even if you don't get picked, someone's going to notice you, and there's going to come a point later where that's going to totally pay off. And I'm going to be talking more about that when I'm here next week for the Entrepreneurship Lecture Series. Stop apologizing. This is especially for the ladies. Okay? We go into every conversation with, sorry, I'm sorry about this. We do that. It's like our nature, right? We apologize for how we look, or for how we've talked, or for what we've done, or we apologize for everything. We would go to interview people. They would apologize in the interview, and we'd be like, if you're apologizing already, I probably don't want to have the confidence to hire you. Don't apologize. And even if it's about motherhood and you're going to be a mom and you're scared to say, I have 2 kids. That meeting I was in Texas, when they went to go schedule the follow-on meeting, they said, okay, we need to schedule this. Get out your calendars. How's next Thursday for everybody? And I was looking at my calendar, and I'm like, oh, I've got this thing, but I didn't say a word. Because I was like, I can't bring up that I have a kid thing because they're going to think I'm weak. That was my thought. And one of the men goes, oh, hey, that's my son's soccer game. We're not going to be able to do that. And I was like, and everybody else in the room was like, oh, okay, let's do this day instead. And I was like, dude, that was awesome. He must be so important, right? On the flight home, I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I do that in meetings, people will think I'm important too. So I tried it, and it worked. So don't apologize, right? If you own it, if you act like it's not an issue, oh, you know what, I'd love to. They're like, well, you must be really important if you can just say that with confidence like that. You're going to be shocked at how well that little trick works, okay? You've got to overcome your fear if you're going to dare mighty things. You're never going to stop being afraid at times. I was afraid to get on that bike. You're never going to stop having that initial fear. That's kind of normal, right? But you can't let it stop you, especially because we got to raise strong women. We don't want to raise a bunch of little girls that are afraid of everything. I have had to learn how to stop saying, oh, I'm so fat, I look so ugly. Because what am I telling my child, right? What am I saying to my little girl if I'm saying that about myself? And I get a little emotional about that, but I think as women, we're so bad about that. And even I didn't realize you are sending the wrong message to your daughters when you do not dare mighty things. Even if you dare and it doesn't work out the way you want it to, that is okay. Because you still showed your daughter that you were willing to dare and that you learned from it and you're a better person because of it. Life will take you where you need to go if you just dare mighty things, and don't be afraid. I'm going to end with this because I want you to have something tangible, and I have 4 minutes, and I will finish on time. Okay? See how, look at this. You proud of me? She says, you never look at your clock. Well, I did today, so I did better. I want to leave you guys with something tangible I need you to do for me. I'm going to be back next Wednesday to speak at the Entrepreneurship Lecture Series, and I fully expect anyone in this room that is there better come up to me and say, I did my goal poster. Okay, we're going to talk about goal poster for 2 seconds. When I was a young girl, I sat down and I made a goal poster. I had no idea at that point what I was going to do, but I was like, here's the thing. I'm going to be an entrepreneur because I don't know what to do, and that sounds like something cool. Back then, they didn't even have a degree in it, so you guys are super lucky. And I was like, I want to be on magazines. I want to make a lot of money. I want to be able to have time with my kids, and I want to be able to meet Bill Gates because Windows was new, and that's how old I am. 8 years later, I was moving offices, and I realized everything on that poster had happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was on the cover of the magazine. I met Ballmer, that counts. Gates retired. But all these things had happened, and I was like, that's amazing, but it's probably a coincidence. I really did believe that was just a coincidence, okay? Didn't put a lot of stock in it. Then my dad came to me, and he said, hey, we're leaving to go to Ghana, Africa to serve in the temple there for the church that we belong to. And he said, you should come out, because I'm going to be, he's going to perform weddings in the temple, sealings in the temple. You should come out and get married in Africa. And I was like, dude, that'd be awesome, Dad, but I don't even have a boyfriend, and I have 2 little kids, and I'm running a company, and I have no time to date, right? So he gives me a picture of the temple, I slap it up, and I'm like, what the heck? Well, this was me, I think, like 6-9 months later in Africa getting sealed to my husband. From Idaho farm boy. If you find one, ladies, keep them. Good men, good men. We got married in Africa. So now I'm like, okay, maybe the poster's actually working, right? So I was like, I got to make a new poster. So I sat down right after we got married, and I made a new poster. I was like, I'm going to sell my company for a ton of money. I want to start a charity. I want to see the 7 wonders of the world. I thought there was only 7. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of different ones, but that's the picture I put up on the poster, so this is what ended up happening. The plane is self-explanatory, okay? Over the next few years, what started to happen is I started taking these trips to all these places on the poster, not because I had planned them based on the poster, but because other things in life took me to those places, okay? Sold the company for all that money. Started the Rees Capital to be able to angel invest in other entrepreneurs and help other entrepreneurs to grow. Was able to start a foundation to encourage young people to look at entrepreneurship as a pathway to self-reliance. Because as a single mom with 2 kids, that's how I put bread on the table. It worked for me, right? And then I got my life back with my cute husband and my 2 kids, all grown up now, okay? And my husband was like, you got to do a new goal poster. I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I wanted to build a house. So I was like, I'll build a dream house, right? And for years, I had started collecting pictures. Now, this is just one slide of what I wanted to build. This is like part of the goal poster that I made about this house. It was actually like a 38-page PowerPoint. Ironically, her wedding that I put on was 32 pages or something. It was way bigger than the house even. But every page, I had all these pages and a whole PowerPoint of my goal poster for building a house. That was Mariah Carey's closet. I was like, gotta have that, right? So I show you this picture of the poster because I want you to see what I built. That's the actual house, okay? I know, right? Can we talk about the closet? I'm going to wire it so that angels, when I walk in. It's like my goal. But the poster, right? My faith in that poster, I was like, dude, this poster seriously works. So we finished the house, and my husband's like, now you got to make a new one. Now I was a little scared because the poster really takes on a life of its own. Anything I've put on there in my life has happened. So I was all of a sudden like, now I got to think through, what do I want to actually put on the poster, right? I mean, it's a really scary thing when people that have mocked the poster ended up, in bad shape because they mocked the poster. So I wasn't going to do that. But I sat down and I started the poster. And I thought, well, I want my 2 kids to get married in the temple, like I was able to. And I want them to have like 8 kids each. So there's 16 grandkids necessary. I don't know how many are on the poster, but that's the goal. Look, they get $1 million on the 8th child. So I think it's a really good investment on their side. I thought a European vacation sounds fun. And I probably should write a book, and my education, it always bothered me I had to drop out of college. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go back to school because like I teach at a lot of the universities now. That'd be super awkward. So, but my husband's like, just put on the poster. You never know, right? So I did. Before I even finished this poster, within a couple of months, I got a phone call that they were granting me an honorary PhD. I started crying when they told me, and they were probably like, dude, seriously, it's just a little, ceremony. For me, it was so meaningful because I had no idea how that was going to happen, right? Then my family went on these Europe trips, and this, like the dots now, and way bigger than this even for Europe. That all happened over the next 12 months. Poster wasn't even done. I still haven't even finished that poster. Okay, this is actually there to prove I really did go to those places. So fun, by the way. Both my kids got married in the temple, and then I became a grandma. I like to say grandma because I think I'm way too hot and cool for grandma, but My first little ground baby Flynn was born about 17 months ago, and I just found out that I'm going to be a grandma number 2, and I cannot wait. So I am so excited. We're well on the way. And then I finished the book for Forbes, and like I said, I literally got my copy yesterday. So the advanced copies are out of what awesome looks like, how to excel in business and life. What I want to leave you with is this: don't limit the picture in your head. Okay, when you go sit down and make your poster, I don't want you to limit yourself. I want you to put on there, when I ask the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? I want you to put that on the poster, and I want you to just trust and see what happens, okay? Dare mighty things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was so awesome. And let's give it up one more time for all of our speakers that we've heard from today.
Okay, honestly, guys, like, this is so fulfilling for us to see. Like, just take another second and look around. Look at how many amazing, brilliant women we have in this room right now to be inspired by these other amazing, brilliant women. We are so excited to have you guys here. Can everyone, I guess this is on it. Sounds weird to me. Now we have asked our speakers to stay with us for a little bit, and we're going to be doing a panel. We're also going to invite Meredith Thompson, our Associate Dean, up, and Paige Sampson. And we are so excited to have those two join us as well. Paige is a student here, and she has accepted an offer with Adobe, and she has been so involved in the business school. So we just want to bring all of them up here, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little more insight from them.
Okay, I can turn it back
Whatever, whatever works.
Where do you want us? Just spots that we should go in. I have this still, I think.
I'm like getting chills that I'm sitting up here with them. I like feel so excited to hear from them and just get a little more insight. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Is it on? Can you guys hear me now? There we go. Okay. This first question will be for Paige. When was a time that you felt incredibly mighty?
Do you want me to pass this back?
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. I think a time that I felt mighty, it was actually in this room. I think it was the end of my sophomore year. When I came to Utah State, all I wanted to be was involved. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to be involved in something. I was in this room, and I had kind of gotten involved with the Pro Sales program. End of my sophomore year, they had an end-of-the-year banquet, and I got an email for it, and I was like, I'm not even in this club. I probably shouldn't go, but I'll go anyways. And I went, and I sat at a table at kind of the back of this room all by myself. I didn't know anybody. And then exactly a year later, I had planned the same banquet. I had done all the things that the students were talking about at this banquet. I traveled across the country and got to compete in different sales competitions. I had done an internship, or I was about to do an internship. So I think just having a little bit of courage was a really mighty thing for me, and kind of knowing what I wanted to do, and then a year later being able to do all of those things. So.
Okay, so this next question is going to be for Meredith and Andrea. What event/moment or person has motivated you to step up?
I don't know if my mic works.
Here, I can turn
I
it
might
back on.
have turned it off.
I'll turn it on. There you go. Now you have it.
Everybody hear me? So I kind of, if you guys heard, I quoted Chip Gaines. Who loves Chip and Joanna Gaines?
Can you guys hear her?
Everybody, Chip and Joanna, they're like the greatest, right? I'm obsessed. So anyway, this is kind of crazy. So yeah, back in October with this whole, I finally decided what my dream was, gonna start this nonprofit. It kind of all came about from, I read Chip Gaines' book. Who's read Capital Gains? Everybody should read it. So anyway, this book, essentially, I've had this goal my whole life. Finally got the courage to say it out loud. I told my husband, I told my mom. I was like, should I go back and get an MBA? Should I start this nonprofit? What should I do with my spare time? Because I have so much spare time as a young mom in a full career. And I decided I was gonna see what I could do, and it just all started falling into place. Well, I tweeted at Chip Gaines and told him I was gonna accomplish this, and he tweeted back, guys. So that was when I felt incredibly mighty. My goal was happening. I got the recognition that I wanted out of life, Chip Gaines. So kind of silly, but it was a win.
I think mine was when I actually walked the stage getting my PhD. I will, I think it was Andrea who talked about Imposter Syndrome. And I will say that when I was in my PhD program, I started the PhD because I'd had this faculty member in my MBA program, and she was awesome. And I thought, I want to be like her, and it just looked really fun. But really, when I ended the PhD program, I didn't really think I would finish. I thought, okay, well, if I can just get through the coursework, but I probably won't finish comps. I'll fail comps, or I won't be able to finish the dissertation. And I will be frank that my partner at the time believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. But the day walking the stage, I was like, it was a very surreal day, because I don't think I actually really believe. I know I didn't believe I could do it until that day. So that was a motivating event to go on and find other things that I didn't think I could do.
Amy, what keeps you motivated when you get discouraged?
Trying to impress my kids and now my grandkids. That's really true. I mean, a lot of the things that I do is because I want them to be proud of me. And so I think that is a good motivating factor, and whether it's your children or your parents or a loved one or a spouse, and just, I think, or your Heavenly Father, or whatever you believe in, I think wanting to make that person proud of you is a really good motivating factor to turn to. So I do a lot of really stupid, crazy, like whitewater rafting and surfing and stuff that I'm terrible at, but I do it because I want them to be like, oh, our mom did that, right? Or my husband to be like, my wife did that, that's cool. So I think that does help a lot.
Okay, I think the next question I'm going to do is for Paige, because I really want all of the students here to see how they can get involved. So Paige, what opportunities have you participated in as an undergrad, and how have they benefited you?
I've done a lot of different random things, actually. So when I first came to Utah State, like I said, I really wanted to be involved. First, I was a housing ambassador, and so I gave tours of the student housing here on campus and different presentations. I hosted different speakers when they used to do the Partners in Business conferences, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I actually was introducing the COO of Vivint, and I tripped and fell in heels down the stairs. He's like, I won't tell anybody that you did that. And I was like, thank you. I did that. I've actually had, I think, 7 different jobs while I was here in Logan, including a 2-year marketing internship at a property management company. I did a internship at a company called Paycom in Seattle over the summer. For the last about year and a half, I've been president of the Pro Sales program, which is an organization that helps students, get prepared for a career in professional sales. With that opportunity, I've actually competed across the country at different sales competitions. So I've competed twice in Orlando, Florida. I spent probably more time by the pool than anything else, but I've competed in Arizona. I competed in Chico, California. We spent a week in San Francisco as well, visiting Salesforce and Adobe. We got to go to Google. It was awesome. So please get involved with Pro Sales. It's the best thing ever. I'm also a member of the Business Council, so I get to be a part of different events like this one and helping facilitate those, which has been awesome. It's crazy, the effort that goes into events like this and how much the people here at Utah State just want every single one of you to get involved. So now that I know that you guys don't have class on Friday, I expect to see all of you at all the Focus Fridays for the rest of the year. But I think all in all, it was not one thing. I think like all these other women throughout college, it wasn't one thing that got me to my dream job at Adobe. It was all these little different things that I probably would have initially said no to, but kind of got the courage to do it, and they've all kind of taken me. It really wasn't a clear path, but it's been awesome.
Paige, keep the microphone. I have just a follow-up for that. What advice would you give to the people here, the students here, as you're kind of ending your time at Utah State? What advice would you give to them?
honestly, I'm sure most of you in this room have very different and diverse goals and aspirations than I do. My advice would be that I think as women, we are expected to kind of keep the peace and keep everyone around us happy and maybe not ruffle anyone's feathers. And I think the world needs more opinionated people. So don't be afraid to do what you want to do. Don't be afraid to speak your mind and you maybe ruffle some feathers, like I said. My dad always told me that if people don't like you, that's okay. It probably means that you stood up for something in your life. So, I'd always rather be a shark than a marshmallow. So just say whatever you'd like to say.
All right, and I just want to add to that Paige has an awesome job opportunity and has done so much, but that could be any one of you in your next coming year, in the next few years. The Huntsman School has so many opportunities for us, and that's a big part of kind of what we want to touch on with WEBA and just, keeping everyone involved. So thank you for that.
Yes, lots of opportunities for women. Especially for pro sales, it's like we always have to find women to come on these trips because we would never send a group of 5 guys across the country to represent Utah State. We'd look really silly. So please get involved. There's so many opportunities for women. In San Francisco, we went and visited a company called Peak, which is, the CEO is a woman. Her name's Rashwana Basir. I can't really say her name. Look her up. She's amazing. And we went and we sat down with her and she wanted to talk with us. And there was probably about 8 to 10 Utah State students, and there were only 2 women, myself and another gal named Bailey Boaz. And the first thing she said, she kind of looked around the room and she said, "Where the heck are all the women? Like, seriously, like, you guys, if you're going to come back again, please bring more women because there are, people that are hiring in Utah, people are hiring all across the country, they want more women, so."
Okay, so Andrea and Danielle, in your experience, has the culture for working women changed in the last 10 years that you've been?
Okay. Yes, I definitely have seen an evolution of more women in the workplace. And I think that companies are just seeing that we add value and we have different perspectives, and I think our opinions matter, and I think companies are noticing that more. I was very much like Amy in an industry that was very male-dominated. It was the wireless industry in its infancy, and I too would sit in meetings that were full of men, and I was the only woman sitting there. But over the years, we started to see a lot more women come into the fold, which was exciting. And then I personally have some incredible friends who their careers have now put them in positions where I have a friend that works for Method Communications, a big PR firm downtown. She just got promoted to senior VP. I have a friend, she's a pilot for Delta. A friend that is a producer for KSL, has been there for 13 years. And I'm just seeing my own surrounding and my own friends who have, and I'm so proud of them. It's so fun to see them and their accomplishments. They have personal lives, they have children, and they too have found that balance. But yeah, I think that we are seeing a lot more women in the workforce, and it's evolving, and I think it's getting better and better.
So I was next, and I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm about 5 years out of college, right? And I had rose-colored glasses. I had educated myself and said, if I do these 5 things, I will not be discriminated against. If I argue my salary first, that's what they say, make sure you argue your salary before you get hired. Women just accept. If I, do all these little things, these steps they say to do, discrimination won't happen to me. And I hate to say that, but it's not true. I've experienced it firsthand, also in a very male-dominated finance industry. And the fact is, it's still out there, and it's frustrating. And not to be negative, I want to say this for the fact that I think everybody should be aware. Be aware that you are going to have to fight. The fact is, it's not easy. You're going to have to stand up. You might have to report it to HR or whatever it might be. But I've been put in these situations, and it's unfortunate. But the fact is, the only way we're going to improve is if we fight. So I do think it's improved, but we're not there yet. So we got to keep working at it.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I think that's great advice from both of you. I love that advice from Danielle that your friends and supporting them is really important. And I agree with Andrea. There's a lot that still needs to be done in the world. And with how many people are showed up here today, I truly believe that we can make a difference and we can make a difference for sure in the workplace and make it a more equal place. Meredith, Danielle, and Amy, I want to know what advice you would give your 20-year-old self.
Okay, I'll start. I'll reiterate kind of what I think it was Andrea and Danielle both said. I think there's no more important decision in your life and in your career and in your family than who you pick as a partner. And I would encourage you to pick someone who will encourage your dreams. And if it's somebody who you're dating that doesn't indicate that you're on the same wavelength or kind of have a similar path, that's okay. But pick someone who, encourages you and supports you. And if I'll be frank, I re-entered the dating pool a few years ago, and I had a few people that I went out with on the first date say, "Oh, well, your job as a professor intimidates me." Well, this is not going to work. So, not if you're married, but if you're dating and it's not working out, don't be afraid to kind of throw them back. There are a lot of fish in the sea. Women here, look around. If you're looking for a male partner, there are a lot of them here at the business school. Pick a good one off the man tree.
Taylor Meyer, for example, right here at this front table.
And
Come to one of my talks again.
yeah, so pick somebody who will support you, because if they can't on the front end when you're dating, that's an important signal to pay attention to. Pick a strong one, because that person will influence how much happiness is in your life and how much unhappiness is in your life, and it is so much easier with an equal partner. So pick that equal, make them a real partner.
Who was next?
Do you want me to
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good question. What would I tell my 20-year-old self? To be honest, there's a part of me that would say, good job. Like, pat yourself on the back. I think sometimes we don't do that enough for ourselves. I think that we hold ourselves back by getting in our heads maybe a little too much. So there is a part of me that would say, good job. You risked things. You went into something that you had no idea what you were doing, but you felt good about it, and you felt like, go for it and see what happens. And like I said earlier, I had no idea what I was doing when we started our business at 23. So part of me would say, yes, I pat myself on the back and say, take the risk, you did it, good job. But then I'd also tell myself that we're not perfect. I think sometimes we go into a lot of the things that we do and we want everything to be perfect. I realized really quickly it's not perfect, but you can find some great opportunities and value in the things that we try and do. But no one's perfect, and we all have our ups and downs, but what can we learn from those imperfections to improve what we're trying to accomplish? So I think that's, and then I would agree with you, Meredith, finding a good partner is a big deal. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I wanted to over the course of my marriage. I've been married 17 years now, which has been my career, and I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I accomplished without finding that right partner who supported me and cheered me on. And still to this day, on the drive up here, the text message that just said, "You're amazing. You're going to do great. Be yourself, and you'll kill it." So I still have to this day that incredible support. So that's big.
So I had the interesting experience of, I was in Washington, D.C. a few months ago. Sorry, that was okay. I was in Washington, D.C. a few months ago, and I got to drive by the house I lived in when I was in, do you want me to use a different mic? Okay. Should I switch? Let me switch to that one. Yeah, I'll turn this one off. I got to drive by the house that I lived in when I was in high school in D.C., and it's the first time I'd been back since I had been like 16 or 17. And as I sat there looking up at the window, at what was my bedroom window, I had that moment of, God, I could see myself in there, right, with my little cassette tapes, listening to my 80s music with my huge hair. It was awesome. It was so big. And I thought, what would I say to her? So it was kind of the same question. I thought, what would I say? And the thing I would say to her was, number one, there's going to be a lot of hard times. There is, but that's the whole purpose of being here, is those hard times are how you're going to grow. It's how you're going to learn. And those hard times are not the end. Like, there is so much more that's going to come in your life that's going to be amazing. But yeah, you do have to go through trials first to get there. You do have to go through some struggles. You do have to make some mistakes. And you have to, like, I made a terrible mistake in my first choice of marriage, right? But I got 2 amazing kids out of it. And man, I wouldn't trade that for the world. I made some huge mistakes in my business early on that caused me to pivot and go different directions, but I never would have ended up doing what I did in business if I hadn't had those mistakes early on. So I would tell myself that, you know what, the mistakes are part of the process. It's how you're going to learn. It's how you're going to grow, but don't give up, because what's intended for you is incredible. And all you got to do is just keep moving forward and have some faith in the fact that there is good things that lie ahead, even when things are really hard. But when you look back at everything you've accomplished, you're going to go, oh, it's the hard times. When I sit there and I think of the life lessons, it was the hard times that taught me everything. It wasn't the good times. Those were the easy, happy. Yeah, they were fun, but I didn't learn much in those times. All the wisdom I've gained came from enduring through hard things and figuring out how to overcome and figuring out how to make it work, right? And I would tell you, my little teenage self, that the most important work I would ever do in my life would be in the walls of my own home, because that's the truth. There's nothing I'm more proud of, no accolade that means more to me than looking at my 2 kids and how incredible they are, and now looking at my grandkids. That is the biggest blessing that you will ever have in your life. It is the biggest joy you will ever have as your family. So accomplish things in your career and go after that. You're not having to give up your family to do that. You can do both. You can have both. That's my advice. So.
Okay, so I was raised in Texas, Southern Baptist, and there's a lot of overlap between, I would say, social, familial expectations being raised Southern Baptist and being part of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Did I say that right? Yeah, I think I did. So I had a woman that I looked up to, and I still admire her when I was in college. I can't remember if I was married yet or not, but close. And she emphasized that if you're going to be a good mom, you have to stay home and you cannot work. I cannot tell you, when I started in my mid-20s, while my partner at the time was in law school and I needed to work, how crushing that was and how wrong she was. You can excel at any role you want to play simultaneously. You can be a great parent. You can be a great partner. You can be a great professional. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it all. And I would say, especially for the ladies in the room, if the guys can show up and be a professional every day and be a great husband and being a great dad, you can do the same darn thing.
Okay, so I'm neither a wife nor a mother, but my mom is here in the back, and she actually works in medical software as well. But she's worked there, I think, for 20 years-ish, and I'm only 21, so she's worked there as long as I remember. She's always been a working mom. She traveled when I was young. My dad also owns a plumbing company, and he's worked every single day since I've been born. So you can raise very, great children and work all the time. So very proud of her.
Thank you guys so much for that great advice and just sharing your expertise and everything with us. We're just so honored to have you. We do have little gifts for each of you for coming. And let's hear it for them.